to be in my video? You want to be in the video? Say hi to the internet. Hello. Okay, so home for the holidays, right? Got myself some bubbly. I went over to my roommates, my old roommate, like 2 weeks ago, Naples, and I didn't realize that bubbly had blackberry, or else I would have been downing this for a long. It could be a new flavor though, but anyway, it hits. There has been like very interesting, needless to say, and I feel like I should include like a bunch of footage from this year because there's a lot of videos that I wanted to make but I just haven't. I kind of feel like I've been in a creative rut a little bit as far as YouTube goes, but a lot of like personal changes and things like that I think I've taken into consideration. I've gotten a new job. I start grad school next month, which is like really scary, exciting, but it's always interesting. Needless to say, I remember when I turned like 25, I kind of had a feeling it was going to be my last. I knew it was going to be like my last year staying in the apartment that I was at. I kind of had a feeling it was going to be the last year I stayed in New York, but I don't necessarily say those things because sometimes you have those thoughts and you know they're true, and sometimes you have them and they're not. Also, shout out to my boxing gym that I used to go to like all the time. Grit. I miss it. It's like, can't find another boxing gym like it, but it's fine. But anyway, I digress. So I kind of knew like it was going to be the last time I was in New York. And I remember there was one day at work and I just decided to apply for, hello, you can come here. This cat, Grayson, no need for the attitude. Only likes to be picked up if you're like standing up. I don't know, but and I just remember like I was sitting in a car at work and my boss goes, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm applying to grad school. And guess what? Hey, Grayson, stop scratching the furniture. Don't come here. And I don't know, like things in New York had definitely felt different, and not just because we are in the pandemic. Like I felt as if I was in a period in my life of a very much a waiting period for sure. And the beginning of this year, I told God, I'm like, yo, in the beginning of this year, I told God I want two things: relationship and a new job. And we didn't get the relationship, but we did get the new job. So, and we got the new job, we got grad school, an apartment, and living in a new city, like across the country in Florida. So, needless to say, a lot of change has happened this year. I knew that my 2021, my word for the year from the Lord was major. And I have written down my words for 2022, which are impact and abundance. So I know I'm going to have an abundant, a bountiful year of the harvest. But I've also have gone through, and I don't want to say that to like be condescending or be like annoying. I say that as someone who has had a really tough like past couple of years. Like this year was probably, in a way, I think it was a really good turning point. I'd been at a job that I didn't really like for quite some time. A lot of stuff like happened to me in New York. Like, I had my family's house burned down like 2 or 3 years ago. I lost a few family members to cancer. So a lot of things that I really like haven't taken the time here to talk about, just because I like was working a crazy job. I never really had time to like process anything and just kind of keep going forward. I found out this year I have psoriasis, which I mean isn't something major, but you definitely do get flare-ups every now and then. And still like finding a way to treat that. So it's definitely been like a very like interesting year, but it's definitely been a good one. I've had, been blessed with some incredible friendships. And to anyone who is friends with me and is watching this video, thank you. Because I know you guys have kind of all seen the crazy behind the scenes of what my life is. I said, like, it means something to have people in your life, or have someone in your life who isn't just willing to look at the mountains with you, but is willing to look at the mountains in life you face and climb them with you. I think it's really easy to be friends with people when everyone's going through a valley and you're near water and life is good and everyone's refreshed. It's another thing to climb mountains with people when, life happens and we all have to deal with like tough situations. I think COVID, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say the COVID word on here. I think Miss Rona has done a good job at like filtering out relationships in our lives and just kind of showing us like the people. You can tell like who the real ones are based off of the situations and things that you go through, and the real ones stay. And I say this like time and time again, let the trash take itself out. Relationships, friendships, it's just, if there's no point in like having to convince someone to stay in your life. Let me say that first and foremost. Because the people who will want to be in your life will stay, and they'll make it a point and make it an effort, and the people who don't. And this isn't to say that, if you haven't talked to someone in 6 months, that they don't want to be friends with you. Things happen, people like, situations change, life change. Relationships are something, friendships, relationships are something like nothing is ever going to stay the same. We all go through different seasons. And if you haven't read the book, I'm completely going on a tangent now, but if you haven't read the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, I would very much consider you to do so. I think it was that and Blink, because pretty sure it's in Outliers or Blink, one of those, where he talks about how like our life, we can only manage about, I think it's either like 30 or 40 relationships at a time. Well, and after that point, you kind of like relationships kind of start getting more like surfacey if you do more than that. So relationships are kind of like jars on a shelf. Sometimes you have to take out a jar you'll have it out during the period you need it, and then it goes back. And you still use that jar's still there, but it's just not time for you to use that jar yet. And I think relationships are like that in the sense that not everything, like just because someone hasn't talked to you in a minute doesn't mean that they're mad at you. It just means that they're probably busy, or they have something like going on that they're just trying to process on their own, and that's okay. If you haven't had like a falling out with anyone, or no one's done anything to like make each other mad, and if you're waiting or you're irritated because someone hasn't talked to you in 3 or 4 months, you can go and pick up the phone and either call them or text them and say, hey, thinking about you. But you want to have like relationships with people where you pick up where you left off. And I think that's something like coming back home, having friends in the city, having people in Florida now is something that I've definitely learned. That's just my relationship, friendship advice. You can take it or leave it. But anyway, just like I wanted to sit down and make this video to kind of just reflect on my 2021. It's been way more, I don't want to say like way more interesting. Like I said, I made some really big moves. I think like this year was finally a year where I was able to like take a deep breath for sure. And I think it's something to be said though about like you have to trust the waiting process more than anything, and trust that like it takes time to reap a harvest, and every season is important, every season is significant. I will say that as someone who like went through a lot and is now like, you know, starting to see the sun a little bit, you, even in the tough, there are blessings in the tough seasons, and don't take, like, just because you're going through something doesn't mean that there aren't blessings around you. All be expectant of 2022, and maybe all receive 2022 as a harvest year. Peace, love, and blessings. As always, remember that you got this. Bye. Cheers. We miss you, Kristen and Angela.
The greatest.
And the infamous skyline of New York City.
So one day I just get in her car and I'm like, wow, your car is louder than usual. And there's like this giant pipe next to my head. And she's like, yeah, my muffler fell off. So I just like ripped it off and threw it in the back.
Listen, I'll be back in a month, okay? Cheers. So done boxing, now I'm watching sports. It's not just a game, it's the playoffs, and it's the Knicks and the Nets are both playing right now. Go sports. Go New York. Came to visit me. Both soaked and wet, trying to miss the rain. Welcome to New York City. My day one of living in New York City is leaving us to go back to Buffalo. How do you feel?
Honestly, I'm like really sad, but also really excited because I have a parking spot, a balcony, 2 bedrooms, a dishwasher, a heated pool, laundry in my building.
Hell.
I'm excited.
What's the one thing you're gonna miss about New York?
Everything.
What's the one thing you're not gonna miss about New York?
Also everything. Mostly parking.
One of our friends is always like, Ellen Stardust. And I'm like,
an event based off of it in college.
yeah. Hello, my little friend. Here's the most important good. Butterbeer. So good. This is my crazy hair and my crazy eye makeup. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.